Welcome back, folks, to the C Files. I am on my final reading of the night. I'll be busy for 2 weeks after this, so I will see everyone in August. This is the middle of July. I will see everyone in August and make more of these videos. All four series that I'm doing on this channel. This channel is dedicated to biblical literacy. It's dedicated to comparative religion studies. And the one thing I don't mention often is books like this one is also part of this channel, where we are looking at the science of creation. And the last time we left off, we discussed natural selection and mutations, and now we're going to hit fruit flies. This book is In the Beginning: Compelling Evidence for Creation and the Flood by Walt Brown, PhD. And it's a really good book. And if you want to learn more about why people like me believe in special creation rather than materialistic Darwinian evolution, this book is one of the books that you could look at to see why we believe what we believe from the scientific side. From the biblical side, just go to the book of Genesis. All right, fruit flies. A century of fruit fly experiments involving 3,000 consecutive generations gives absolutely no basis for believing that any natural or artificial process can cause an increase in complexity and viability. No clear genetic improvement has ever been observed in any form of life, despite the many unnatural efforts to increase mutation rates. And let me go back. There's a reference to there's a portion of the back where he gives references. And so let's go back here and look at what he has to say about fruit flies back in the chapter. Each chapter has references. Um, Here's what we have on fruit flies. This is Theodosius Dobzhansky, Evolution, Genetics, and Man, New York, publisher out of New York, John Wiley and Sons, 1955. On page 105, he says this: most mutants are, most mutants which arise in any organism are more or less disadvantages to their possessors. The classical mutants obtained in Drosophila, the fruit fly, usually show deterioration, breakdown, and disappearance of some organs. Mutants are known which diminish the quality or destroy the pigment in the eyes, and in the body reduce the wings, eyes, bristles, legs. Many mutants are, in fact, lethal in their possessors. Mutants which equal the normal fly in vigor are a majority, and mutants that would make a major improvement of the normal organization of the normal environments are unknown. Nielsen on page 1186 states, and this is it just says Nielsen, page 1186. I'm not sure where I get the rest of that, but here we go. A review of known facts about their muted fruit flies. It's talking about muted fruit flies when it says there. So we'll read it again. A review of known facts about their ability to survive has led to no other conclusion than that they are always constitutionally weaker than their parent form or species, and in a population with free competition, they are eliminated. Therefore, they are never found in nature. Not a single one of the several hundreds of Drosophila mutations, and therefore they are able to appear only in the favorable environment of the experimental field or laboratory. Now, Goldschmidt, page 94, says in the best known organisms, like Drosophila, I meant to say, innumerable mutants are known. If we were able to combine 1,000 or more of such mutants in a single individual, this still would have no resemblance whatsoever to any type known as a new species in nature. Gordon Rattray Taylor, former chief science advisor, BBC Television, The Great Evolution Mystery, out of New York, Harper and Row, 1983, page 48, says this. It is a striking but not much mentioned fact that though geneticists have been breeding fruit flies for 60 years or more in labs all around the world, flies which produce a new generation every 11 days. They have never yet seen the emergence of a new species or even a new enzyme. Hitching on page 61 says fruit flies refuse to become anything but fruit flies under any circumstances yet devised. And finally, Grossi on page 130. The fruit fly, Drosophila melanogaster, the favorite pet insect of the geneticists, whose geographical, biotropical, urban, and rural genotypes are now known inside out, seems not to have changed since the remotest times. So mutations do not improve the fruit fly, they just damage them. The next part is complex molecules and organs. Many molecules necessary for life, such as DNA, RNA, and proteins, are so complex that claims concerning their evolution are questionable. Furthermore, such claims lack experimental support. There is no reason to believe that mutations or any natural process could ever produce any new organs, especially those as complex as the eye, the ear, or the brain. For example, an adult human brain contains over 10 to the power 14, 100,000 billion electrical connections. More than all the electrical connections in all the electrical appliances in the world. The human heart, a 10-ounce pump that will operate without maintenance or lubrication for about 75 years, is another engineering marvel. Now let's go back and see what the scientific studies and scientists have to say about this. I'll get back here to where that information is. Here we are. So complex molecules and organs. This is Michael J. Behe. He's one of my favorites. I like Behe. Darwin's Black Box. I have that book on my shelf. Great book. I recommend it. New York, The Free Press, 1996, page 179. There has never been a meeting or a book or a paper on details of the evolution of complex biochemical systems. Behe further stated on page 186, molecular evolution is not based on scientific authority. There is no publication in the scientific literature, in prestigious journals, specialty journals, or book that describes how molecular evolution of any real complex biochemical system either did occur or even might have occurred. There are assertions that such evolution occurred, but absolutely none are supported by pertinent experiments or calculations. Since no one knows molecular evolution by direct experience, and since there is no authority on which to base claims of knowledge, it can truly be said that, like the contention that the Eagles will win the Super Bowl this year, the assertion of Darwinian molecular evolution is merely bluster. John K. Stevens, Reverse Engineering the Brain, Vital, April 1985, page 287, says this. While today's digital hardware is extremely impressive, it is clear that the human retina's real-time performance goes unchallenged. Actually, to stimulate 10 milliseconds of the complete processing of even a single nerve cell from the retina would require the solution of about 500 simultaneous nonlinear differential equations 100 times and would take at least several minutes of processing time on a Cray supercomputer. Keeping in mind that there are 10 million or more such cells interacting with each other in complex ways, it would take a minimum of 100 years of Cray time to simulate what takes place in your eye many times every second. Wow. Wow. Just wow. That's all I have to say to that. That's incredible. All right. Isaac Newton, Optics. New York, McGraw-Hill, 1931, pages 369 to 370. He says this in one sentence, folks. Was the eye contrived without skill in optics, and the ear without knowledge of sounds? Wow. There's some smart people thinking through this that are being utterly and totally ignored by the news media, by the scientific community that subscribes only to materialism and will not allow any evidence that would be contrary to materialism, any evidence that would be other than their ideology. That's not science, folks. That's philosophy, that's religion, whatever you want to call it, but it's not science to do that. Wernher von Braun, probably the rocket scientist most responsible for the United States' success in placing men on the moon, from a letter written by Dr. Wernher von Braun and read to the California State Board of Education by Dr. John Ford on 14 September 1972. He says this. Certainly, there are those who argue that the universe evolved out of a random process, but what random process could produce the brain of a man or the system of the human eye? And then we have another one that goes into the next page. Let me see what the reference is. It's Grossi, page 104. He says this: the probability of dust carried by the wind producing Durer's melancholia, melancholia is less infinitesimal than the probability of copy errors in the DNA molecule leading to the formation of the eye. Besides, these errors had no relationship whatsoever with the function that the eye would have to perform or was starting to perform. There is no law against daydreaming, but science must not indulge in it. That's a great quote. Ernest Mayr, Systematics and the Origin of Species. That's New York, Dover Publications, 1942. I mean, some of these are old. Page 296. By the way, 1942 was not that long earlier than when I was born. That was 22 years before I was born. Think about that. So old is a relative thing when it comes to that. All right. It quotes the following. It says, it must be admitted, however, that It is a considerable strain on one's credulity to assume that finely balanced systems such as certain sense organs, the eye of vertebrates, or the bird's feather, could be improved by random mutations. This is even more true for some of the ecological chain relationships, the famous yucca moth case, and so forth. However, the objectors to random mutations have so far been unable to advance any alternative explanation that was supported by substantial evidence. Although Robert Jastrow generally accepts Darwinian evolution, he acknowledges the following. He acknowledges the following, and he does so in Evolution section for Perfection, Science Digest, December 1981, page 87. He says the following. It is hard to accept the evolution of the human eye as a product of chance. It is even harder to accept the evolution of human intelligence as a product of random disruptions in the brain cells of our ancestors. Do you see how much of a problem, the complications that come up, the very extreme, complex complications that come up when you insist on every aspect of creation being Darwinian evolution? It is a quagmire. But we'll read on. Many leading scientists have commented on the staggering complexity of the human eye. What some do not appreciate is how many diverse types of eyes there are, each of which adds to the problem of evolution. One of the strangest is a multiple lens compound eye found in fossilized worms. And this is Donald G. Mikulik, a Silurian soft body biota, Science magazine, volume 228, 10 May 1985, pages 715 to 717, if you want to look it up. Another type of eye belongs to some trilobites, which evolutionists claim are very early forms of life. These trilobite eyes had compound lenses, sophisticated designs for eliminating image distortion, spherical aberration. Only the best cameras and telescopes contained compound lenses. Trilobite eyes, quote, represent an all-time feat of function optimization, end quote. Ricardo Levi Seti, Trilobites, second edition, Chicago, the University of Chicago Press, 1993, pages 29 to 74. Solver described trilobite eyes as having, quote, the most sophisticated eye lenses ever produced by nature, end quote. Lisa J. Solver, quote, trilobite eyes, an impressive feat of early evolution, end quote. Science News, volume 105, 2nd of February, 1974, page 72. Gold admits that, quote, the eyes of early trilobites, for example, have never been exceeded for complexity or acuity by later arthropods. I regard the failure to find a clear vector of progress in life's history as the most puzzling fact of the fossil record, end quote. And that's Stephen Jay Gould. He's a very famous scientist. And it's from the the my tongue's twisted. The Adiacraean experiment. It's from Natural History magazine, February 1984, pages 22 through 23. This next quote, we're going to go through some more quotes. We got plenty of time here. He says, quote, and this is, let me tell you who it is before I quote it. Henry Fairfield Osborn An influential evolutionist speaking to the American Association for the Advancement of Science in December 1929 is told by Roger Lewin, Bones of Contention, New York, Simon and Schuster Incorporated, 1987, page 57. Even greater capabilities of the brain have been discovered since 1929. Undoubtedly, more remain. But here's the quote. To my mind, the human brain is the most marvelous and mysterious object in the whole universe, and no geologic period seems too long to allow for its natural evolution. Now, this one is Isaac Asimov, another very famous scientist, wrote a lot of science fiction, actually. And it's from In the Game of Energy and Thermodynamics, You Can't Even Break Even. That's published in the Smithsonian, August 1970, page 10. I was alive. I was 10 years old when this was published. Quote, and in man is a 3-pound brain, which, as far as we know, is the most complex and orderly arrangement of matter in the universe. End quote. That's quite a statement from Asimov. Asimov forgot that the brain, and presumably most of its details, is coded by only a fraction of an individual's DNA. Therefore, it would be more accurate to say that DNA is the most complex arrangement of matter known in the universe. The human brain is frequently likened to a supercomputer. In most respects, the brain greatly exceeds any computer's capacities. Speed is one area where the computer beats the brain, at least in some ways. For example, few of us can quickly multiply 0.0239 times 854.95. This task is called a floating point operation because the decimal point floats until we, or a computer, decide where to place it. The number of floating point operations per second, or flops, is a measurement of a computer speed. The Cray T90 supercomputer can perform 60,000 million flops or 60 gigaflops. As of this writing, a computer built by IBM can achieve a 12.3 trillion flops, petaflops. Within the next few years, petaflops machines will probably be commonplace. One challenge is to prevent these superfast computers from melting. Their electricity generates extreme heat. And I'm sure they've gotten faster since the writing of this book. Now, Ivers Peterson in Petacrunchers setting a course toward ultra-fast supercomputer computing, twisting the tongue. In Science News, volume 147, 15 April 1995, page 235 says the following. The human brain itself serves in some sense a proof of concept, and then the brackets, that cool petaflops machines are possible. Its dense network of neurons apparently operates at a petaflops or higher level. Yet the whole device fits in a 1 liter box and uses only about 10 watts of power. Whew, boy, that beats them, don't it? That's a hard act to follow, he says. Yeah, it is. You know why? Because God designed it. That's why. But they don't want to admit that. It just sticks in their craw to even consider the idea that a creator as great as God created it. They just won't go there. It's sad. And it's really embarrassing for science. How then could the brain have evolved? Well, here's a quote from Denton, page 330 to 331. The human brain consists of about 10,000 million nerve cells. Each nerve cell puts out somewhere in the region of between 10,000 and 100,000 connecting fibers, by which it makes contact with other nerve cells in the brain. Although the total number of connections in the human brain approaches 10 to the power 15 or 1,000 million, a much greater number of specific connections than in the entire communications network on Earth. Wow. Couple more and then we're moving on. Now, Deborah M. Barnes, Brain Architecture Beyond Genes in Science Magazine, Volume 233, on 11 July 1986, on page 155. She says, the human brain probably contains more than 10 to the power 14 synapses. Marilyn E. Clark, Our Amazing Circulatory System, Technical Monograph Number 5, San Diego, Creation Life Publishers, 1976, is another reference on E. And E was referencing, let me go back over here. It's where it says, oh yeah, it says the human heart, a 10-ounce pump that will operate without maintenance or lubrication for about 75 years is another engineering marvel. And that's E is that reference. They got that from Marilyn E. Clark, Our Amazing Circulatory System Technical Monograph, number 5, San Diego Creation Life Publishers, 1976. All right. Next, fully developed organs. All species appear fully developed, not partially developed. They show design. There are no examples of half-developed feathers, eyes, skin, tubes, arteries, veins, intestines, and so forth, or any of thousands of other vital organs. Tubes that are not 100% complete are a liability. So are partially developed organs. For example, if a leg of a reptile were to evolve into a wing of a bird, it would become a bad leg long before it became a good wing. um, so here's the references on that. In other words, you can't have organs still developing and have a living creature. They have to be fully developed. Day one of the creature living. So get back over here. Where was it? Come on, here we are. All right. Fully developed organs. So on the first reference where it says that they show design, that's William Paley, Natural Theology magazine, England, 1802, reprint edition, Houston, Texas, St. Thomas Press, 1972. This work by Paley, which contains many powerful arguments for a designer or creator, is a classic in scientific literature. Some people might feel its date of original publication, 1802, makes it completely out of date, but that's not so. Hoyle and Wickramasinghe compared Darwin's ideas with those of Paley as follows. Quote, the speculations of the origin of the species turn out to be wrong, as we have seen in this chapter. It is ironic that the scientific facts throw Darwin out, but leave William Paley, a figure of fun to the scientific world for more than a century, still in the tournament with a chance of being the ultimate winner. And that's Fred Hoyle. And in Chandra Wik, Wickramasinghe, what a name, Evolution from Space, a Theory of Cosmic Creationism, is printed by New York, Simon and Schuster, 1981, page 96 and 97. Now, on the second reference, where it says that there are no examples of half-developed feathers, eyes, and so forth, it's referencing the eyes, and it's saying the following. Asa Gray, a famous Harvard botany professor who was to become a leading advocate of theistic evolution, wrote Darwin expressing doubt that natural processes could explain the formation of complex organs, such as the eye. Darwin expressed a similar concern in his return letter of February 1860. Quote, "The eye to this day gives me a cold shudder. But when I think of the fine known gradations that is available through millions of years of evolution, my reason tells me I ought to conquer the cold shudder." And that's Charles Darwin, The Life and Letters of Charles Darwin, Volume 2, editor Francis Darwin, and that's New York, D. Appleton and Company, 1899, pages 66 and 67. In The Origin of the Species by Charles Darwin, page 75, it says this, and yet Darwin admitted that in that particular page 75 of his book, he admits the following. To suppose that the eye, with all its inimitable contrivances for adjusting the focus to different distances, for emitting different amounts of light, and for the correction of spherical and chromatic aberration, could have been formed by natural selection seems, I freely confess, absurd on the highest degree, or in the highest degree. So Darwin is expressing doubt here. Darwin then proceeded to speculate on how the eye might nevertheless have evolved. However, no evidence was given. Later, he explained how this theory could be falsified. And this is out of The Origin of Species on page 75 as well. He says the following. To suppose that the eye with all its... Did I just read that one? Oh, my eyes skipped up. Let me go back. Where it says this theory could be falsified. This is actually Origin of Species, page 179. He says the following. If it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed, which could not possibly have been formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down. And that is probably the most famous quote of Darwin by creationists. The creationists love quoting that one, and it's pretty rough on his theory, for sure. Well, Darwin, let's see, we got Gertrude Himmelfarb, and this is Darwin and the Darwinian Revolution. Garden City, New York, Doubleday, 1959 is a book. Pages 320 through 321, it says the following. The eye is one of the most complex organs, has been the symbol and archetype of his, Darwin's dilemma. Since the eye is obviously of no use at all except in its final complete form, how could natural selection have functioned in those initial stages of its evolution when the variations had no possible survival value? No single variation, indeed no single part, being of any use without every other. I'll read it again because my phone interrupted me. No single variation, indeed no single part, being of any use without every other. In natural selection, presuming no knowledge of the ultimate end or purpose of the organ, the criterion of utility or survival would seem to be irrelevant. And there are other equally provoking examples of organs and processes which seem to defy natural selection. Biochemistry provides the case of chemical synthesis built up in several stages, of which the intermediate substance formed at any one stage is of no value at all, and only the end product, the final elaborate and delicate machinery, is useful, and not only useful but vital to life. How can selection, knowing nothing of the end or final purpose of this process, function when the only test is precisely that end or final purpose? And finally, Stephen Jay Gould again, The Return of Hopeful Monsters, Natural History Magazine, Volume 86, June through July, 1977, page 23. He says this: Of what possible use are the imperfect, incipient stages of useful structures? What good is half a jaw or half a wing? When we come back in 2 weeks, I'm in the middle of July. I will be doing these again in August. I'm going to be busy for a couple of weeks. I won't be able to make videos. Um, I will pick up on distinct types, and then we'll get into altruism, extraterrestrial life. That one sounds interesting. Number 12. Languages. Languages is one that I really want to get into because languages is really an interesting problem, and so is speech. So this should be fun as we go through this. All right, we're gonna leave it there. I've got things I gotta go do. And it's already gotten late and I am falling behind. So but I wanted to spend some time trying to get this in my bag. There it goes. I want to spend some time doing a series of videos tonight because it's going to be 2 weeks before I can do any after this. I hope you are enjoying this. Hope it's educational for you. I hope my reading is not boring, but I try to make it as interesting as I can when I'm reading. So God bless you guys. I'll see you next time here on the C Files.